Now, if that's not the epitome of getting kicked in the balls, I don't know what is. Chelsea, after going up 1-0 to a Jorginho penalty, concede a late equalizer to Casemiro and Man United and end up with a 1-1 draw. Let's get into it.
And blue is the colour. Essien! Drogba! Lampard! That could be the championship.
Greetings! Welcome back to Couch Critic with me, Dennis P, for what is your Chelsea match review, but more specifically, a tactical synopsis of Chelsea's performance against Man United. But fellas, you already know the script. You know what I want you to do. You know I need you to hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that bell notification button to keep up with the latest and the newest. And if you don't already know, I want to let you know about my sponsors. They go by the name of Major League Socks. And fellas, if you ever want to walk in the footsteps of greatness, you know what to do. Just hit them up. The link will be in the description. Okay, so Chelsea played host to Man United and came away with a 1-1 draw. Goal scorers, Jorginho, ice in the veins with the penalty late in the game, only to be answered by an equalizer from Casemiro, where Kepa did everything he could to keep it out, but unfortunately could not, and Chelsea come away with a 1-1 draw. In this match review, we're going to be looking at the three things as we normally do. We're going to be looking at Potter's pre-game assessment for the lineup and whether or not he's been getting that right the last little while. We've seen 2 early substitutions the last 2 games. We're also going to be looking at Chelsea's shape change, going from the 5 at the back to a back 4 in a 4-1-2-1-2. and how that ended up changing the game for them. And we're also going to be looking at Chelsea's ability to pass in the midfield and all over the pitch. I really just think that Chelsea needs somebody that can pick passes in that midfield, and unfortunately we just did not have that today. Okay, so Chelsea came out in their 3-4-3, which played more like a 5-2-3 if you ask me, with the wingbacks having all sorts of problems getting up and getting forward and making that midfield 4. And they faced a United side that basically played a 4-1-4-1 with Casemiro the only holding 6, and you had obviously Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes supporting the attackers. And gave Chelsea all sorts of problems in the first 35-40 minutes of the game, where we just could not get out. We couldn't string together any passes. The midfield was dominant. And for me, this is the portion where you have to question the pre-game assessment of Graham Potter. For the second game in a row now, Chelsea came out in a shape that was found out very easily and were unable to get a foothold of the match. For me, it just looked like Chelsea were overmatched in the midfield. We had a numerical disadvantage, obviously, with just Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Jorginho going up against Casemiro, Eriksen, and Fernandes. And to be honest, most of the battles were being won by United in that particular area. They pressed us quite well, and we couldn't get the guys that you want to see breaking the press on the ball enough. You know, you didn't see the likes of Jorginho. Everything was going out to the flanks again, to Cucurella and Chilwell, and for whatever reason, those guys could not find that inward ball to break the initial wave of the press. And so as a result, we started going long, and every time we went long, the passes were wayward, and United was coming right back to us. I mean, I can understand the need for wanting to play safer to start the game when you play with a back 5. That's basically what you're looking for. Obviously, we didn't have Koulibaly, so Cucurella came in and played the left-sided center-back position, which I'm not a fan of, I must be honest. Not a fan of seeing him there. I think he can play there in a pinch, but I don't think that that's where he is best suited in this lineup, and I'm pretty sure I said that before. But again, if he's decided that he wants to go with a back 5, then the only real option there was to play Cucurella at left center back, and it just proved to be the wrong decision once again. And you know, we lost the midfield battle, and we weren't getting any control out in the wider areas of the pitch. There's very few opportunities where Chelsea played out from the back and were able to break down, you know, an overly aggressive United press. But the other puzzling aspect of this pre-match assessment by Graham Potter was the fact that you knew that Koulibaly wasn't available. Chelsea had no defenders on the bench. So it only seemed logical to me for Chelsea to play with a back 4. You know, we have a lot more midfielders. If you think of Chukwuemeka, you know, obviously Kovacic, who came into the game, you know, in the first half and whatnot. We have more able bodies there than we do in, you know, the defensive shape. So if any sort of injury comes into play, Chelsea are going to have to, you know, pivot and find another way to play anyway. So it just felt like the more natural shape for Chelsea to have been playing today would have been with a back 4 and, I don't know, a midfield 2. Even if you go with a midfield 2, at least you have, you know, a few more attackers on the pitch that could help, you know, pierce their back line a bit. But ultimately he started with a back five, knowing that he was short with the defenders. And, immediately realized, 35 minutes into the game that Chelsea had no control of the match. And, it was only a matter of time if we continued on that way before United were going to find the opening goal. So, naturally he switches the formation again, takes off Cucurella, who, again, you can question maybe Chilwell might have been the better substitution there and push Cucurella, further up the pitch. Especially when you think about how you wanted to defend initially. You had Cucurella there as your left-sided center back, and if you wanted to be a little bit more solid defensively for that reason, maybe Cucurella would be the guy that you wanted to play at left back and bring on Kovacic for Chilwell. But, he opted to go with Cucurella coming off and Chilwell playing. And the change made an immediate impact in how Chelsea played. All of a sudden, we had control in the midfield. There was a nice blend between the likes of Jorginho, Kovacic, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. They're playing off of each other really well, understanding the roles quite well. And as soon as that happened, Chelsea gained control of the midfield and were able to get into the final third. Now, I don't want to speak on what happened once we got there because that's for the next portion of this video. But for the most part, Chelsea gained control of the match when they switched to a midfield three. I mean, the pre-match assessment, you can't fault Graham Potter for not recognizing where the match is going to be won and lost and having, I thought Jorginho actually played pretty good defensively today. I thought that he was all over the pitch, winning tackles. And, in the press sequences, he was touch tight to Casemiro a few times, and that proved to be very effective. It forced United to go long, and, they were very effective when they went long, unfortunately, as well. They got Antony on the ball, they got Fernandes on the ball, and Eriksen was very good at picking passes as well. So, but for no fault of Jorginho, I thought that his assignment on Casemiro was very, very good. He pressed him quite well. And it was just now we didn't have enough bodies in and around him to compensate for the other guys on the pitch, which is why you saw, obviously, Kovacic come into the game. I'm going to put it to you guys. Are you more of the mindset that Graham Potter is a great tactician in the fact that, like, he recognized that his early assessment of the match was incorrect and he ended up making the substitutions in order to affect the game? Or are you of the mind that he's not coming to the match with the right mindset and is forced to make an early substitution to compensate for the error in the pregame assessment? He has to do a better job of assessing what he has on the pitch, has to do a better job of assessing how his opponent's going to set up against us. And he has to do a better job of, instructing the team, if we're playing with a back five, where we're supposed to be attacking the soft areas of their press. And we just did not do any of that today. Like, we were trying to switch it out to the wide areas. And every time we got out into the wide areas, we had no support. There was no support coming in from Jorginho, no support coming in from Ruben Loftus-Cheek. So as a result, our left and wide wing backs were, forcing the ball forward and to nobody. So, I question the assessment. I do applaud the fact that he is, brave enough to make substitutions that early, to admit that he got it wrong. But at the same time, we shouldn't be put in those situations in the first place. Now, clearly, the shape change changed the game for Chelsea and put United on the back heels. Obviously, Kovacic coming into that midfield gave Chelsea a little bit more solidity in there. We were able to play through there a little bit more. Obviously, Jorginho dropped into the solo six, and you had him flanked by Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Kovacic. And then you also had Mason Mount play as a number 10. So again, it was basically 4v3 now. Chelsea had the numerical advantage in the midfield, and it showed. Like, we had all sorts of possession. We were able to break their presses quite effectively, get into the final third. But again, once again, when Chelsea get into the final third, the ideation there, it just lets them down. We pressed it out, pushed it out to the wide areas again for the most part, and we just didn't have enough there to, really put them to the sword. On a few occasions, we see Azpilicueta, get forward on the right flank, and, every time he was out there, he, just made poor decisions. I don't want to say poor decisions, but the execution was just off. Every time you wanted to see him put in a quality cross, cut it back to one of our midfielders who's making that run, recognizing when to release the ball to get somebody in behind, recognizing when to play it infield to get one of our midfielders in a 1v1 situation. Every time that we had those opportunities and it fell to Azpilicueta to make the assessment as to what to do, it was just not good enough. Chilwell was basically marked out of the game by Dalot, who had a fantastic game as far as I'm concerned. He did everything to shut down that flank. Not just Chilwell, also gave Raheem Sterling fits. He gave Mason Mount fit. And for me, if I was going to award man of the match to any one player for United, it would have been Dalot for me, because he basically controlled Chelsea's left flank. Now I have to say this, there wasn't a whole lot of great performances from anyone on either side of the pitch. I mentioned Dalot having a decent game for United, but you know, on his counterpart for the Chelsea side was Trevoh Chalobah. Like, he had a fantastic match once again, and he is certainly taking the opportunity that's been afforded to him with Fofana being injured and ran with it. Like, this guy has been fantastic in his role, whether it be in a back three or back four. He's been exceptional. And I mean, like, you give this guy an opportunity and, you know, he has to prove himself. You know, obviously we spent a lot of money on Fofana. Of course, he went down with injury, and you wouldn't have expected him to lose his place based on that. But as of right now, I don't know if you can really think, I don't think we can find, but as of now, I don't know if you can find a better Chelsea defender in that back three, back four than Trevoh Chalobah. Obviously, you can say Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva, you know, obviously reads the game extremely well and, you know, positions himself to make interceptions. But for the most part, what I've seen from Chalobah the last little while, his pace, his ability to like recover, his ability to like, you know, snuff out any danger, he's been fantastic. He's been, if in and around, our best defender, you know, the last little while now. And, you know, he needs to be commended for that. I don't want to say too much more, because I feel like as soon as I start giving somebody the praise, you know, they start to falter. So I'm just going to say hats off to Trevoh Chalobah for taking the opportunity to come into this Chelsea side with a lot of pressure put on him, and, you know, taking the opportunity and running with it. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this match review just because it was extremely poor. The match was just awful from both sides. I mean, you can probably say that United sort of shaded it in terms of, you know, having the more threatening opportunities in the final third, but overall, I think both sides were just so poor in possession. And, you know, every time they had a chance to get into transition, the passes that would have broke them and put them in, both teams were just so poor. And from a Chelsea perspective, it was especially poor. The need for somebody to just really dictate what we want to do in the final third, to pick passes accurately, to put players in a position to be, you know, on the front foot and, you know, threatening. Everything that you want from a true number 10, a true, you know, playmaking central midfielder is just not there right now in this squad. Like, every time we got on the ball today and we were looking to get on the front foot, get into transition, run into pace, the passes were always wayward. Whenever we try to play more direct, get, you know, our attackers right into the teeth of the defense, the passes were wayward. Whenever we worked it out to the flanks, try to get our, you know, our wing backs or our fullbacks involved in the game, the passes were wayward. And when they got on the ball, they weren't finding, you know, the central pass to get, you know, our attackers into good positions. And, you know, you think about what quality is needed to break down teams that are very tough and defensively solid. And I just don't think that Chelsea have the ability to pass the ball and truly break teams down at their disposal right now. I mean, I don't know, I can't think of one player in our side that is an adept enough passer to like thread the ball through a needle and, you know, find an attacker into space. I don't even want to speak on Jorginho today, because I really do feel like he had a poor game passing the ball today. Really poor game. Defensively, I thought he was actually pretty good, but in terms of like trying to get us on the front foot, get us playing football and whatnot, he was abysmal. I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, we're going to point to Mason Mount and we're going to be saying that, you know, he needs to be better if he's going to be playing as a number 10 for us. And yes, that is true, but, you know, that's not really his skill set. You know, like, I understand why he was playing and why he played the full 90 is because we needed somebody that is a depth to make up that midfield and, you know, make us a little bit more solid in there. And, you know, he plays because he understands what is being asked of him, whether it be, you know, in transition and defensively. In the final third, he does leave a little bit to be desired there in terms of like his ideation, his creation and whatnot. But in terms of every other aspect of the game, like, he's very important into our setup. Like, I'm sorry, I hate to admit it, but he is. But we still don't have anyone that can deliver that final ball that is going to get us in behind the defense or get a key pass into, you know, one of our attackers to make some attempt at goal. Just haven't seen any of that. I think in all, Chelsea, of all the players on the pitch, Chelsea had 3 players make a key pass. I think it was Kovacic, Jorginho, and maybe Mason Mount. I'm not even sure who it was, but there's 3 for the entire game, and that is a problem. When you're trying to be a possession-based team and you want to be a team that's on the front foot and playing direct balls into attackers, and you're not getting the key passes from the midfield or in the wide areas, then what is the point of being in possession of the football if you cannot deliver that final hammer blow to get yourself in positions to score goals? So a lot to consider there. I don't know what Chelsea are planning to do in the transfer window coming forward. Obviously with Conte and of course Jorginho running out of contracts, there's going to be consideration towards what we need to do in the midfield and whatnot. And for me, I really do feel like that's where the best money could be spent. You compare us to teams like even Man City for lack of a better comparison. They have guys that know where attackers like the ball. Like Haaland scoring goals for fun. Obviously, he's a killer. He's a fantastic finisher, but he gets servicing every time he's on the pitch. He's getting 4, 5, 6 opportunities to score goals. And when you look at Chelsea, we just don't have anyone that has the ability to pick passes, to play players in behind. Even when we're in transition and you see space ahead of us, and there's also, the margin for error when you're in transition and you have numbers is great, but you still see Chelsea making errors in those situations. So it doesn't bode well for us going forward. We really need to be more effective on the ball when we're trying to break down teams in the final third. But I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Chelsea, once again, toothless in the final third, toothless in the build-up, not being able to string together 4 or 5 passes to really open up a United team that, for me, weren't fantastic. We're not great. The game was there for the taking for both sides, and Chelsea were unable to take advantage of the fact that, we saw a United side that just did not offer anything. For me, I wanted to see more ideation in the middle areas of the pitch from Mason Mount, Kovacic, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and Jorginho. We just did not get that. We controlled the midfield and we just did not have any teeth up front to really pierce them. And, rears his ugly head once again. I think Potter has a lot to consider going forward now. Not just his pre-match assessment, what he has at his disposal, but also, what is he going to do about getting Chelsea on the front foot in these matches? Like, this is not the first time we've come out sluggish and we're unable to match the tempo of the game. We're unable to impact the game in a meaningful way. Like, this is now the second time, had it not been for a penalty, which was deserved, where Chelsea had nothing, in open play that would suggest they were going to, find some sort of a marker to take the, to tip the balance in our favor. There's a lot of matches, and the guys get jaded a lot faster now because they're playing a lot of games. There's a lot of mileage on legs very early in the season, but at the same time, we got to find a way of play, a system of play that is conducive for the attackers that we have on the pitch right now. And right now, this possession-based thing, recycling possession, trying to find openings, not trying to play more direct, trying to get guys in behind, has been an Achilles heel for this Chelsea team now. But again, I can't complain. Chelsea just do not have the depth of squad right now. Obviously, Reece James is a massive miss. He's so important to everything that we want to do offensively. He's a massive, massive miss. N'Golo Kanté, in terms of controlling that midfield and being a general in there, we don't have that right now. And, we're making do with what we have. And unfortunately, those 2 key elements are, the semblance of what we want to do on the pitch. And unfortunately, we don't have that right now. But, we got to keep our heads up and move forward. This is going to be a very, very long season. Obviously, there's a lot of guys that are coming in and out of the lineup all constantly, and we're not going to be able to play a preferred 11 match after match after match. We're going to have to rotate a lot and hope that the people that are coming into the side can pick up and just, basically hit the ground running and get us playing football. But, unfortunately, we didn't have that today, and as a result, we share the spoils. But until then, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. You know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chels. Peace.